A ghost in the machine. That phrase always fascinated me, mostly because I could never understand what it truly meant. When I was younger, I thought it had something to do with haunted computers. While that's still an interesting concept in and of itself, I don't quite think that's what we're dealing with here. Consciousness is a distinct entity from the physical body, both connected in some ambiguous manner that we haven't quite figured out yet. So, is the human mind just a ghost pervading a biological machine? Does that mean ghosts are real? I'm sorry if this train of thought seems to have derailed. I'm trying my best here. I'm just having trouble comprehending what's just happened to me. At the moment, I was just looking for something fun to do. I've always tried my best not to make a name for myself whenever I made my excursions into forbidden cyberspace, so I couldn't go too crazy. Trust me, you don't want that. I suppose I was just looking for something to read, possibly some conspiracy theories that were backed up by tangible evidence. But I found something else, something a lot more intriguing. I was on a forum that was a hotspot for cyberpunk buffs. It was a place where geeks got together and shared developments from tech industries that spanned the globe. I know that there's a lot of these on the surface web, but this one was one that was also frequented by hackers. Hackers who like to break into corporate systems in order to steal knowledge. You can't make a subreddit for that, can you? There was one discussion thread that caught my eye immediately. I found an experimental AI, it said. Now, I'm not an expert in technical jargon, but I'll try my best to explain what this is all about. These artificial intelligences were referred to as EGs, an abbreviation for extracted ghosts. The hacker who had found this explained it in far more explicit detail, but he lost me after a few sentences. Now, I knew how to code, sure, but this far exceeded the scope of what I've been able to do and what I was able to understand. Something that even the hacker found relatively strange was the fact that he'd never heard about the company that created this thing before. It appeared to be some kind of startup situated in southern Germany that went by the name NT. He didn't know what that stood for. He simply looked through the code and found it worthwhile enough to share. He'd put up a link for us to download it. To my surprise, it was an Android mobile app. I assumed that it was probably just a prototype in the earliest stages of beta testing. I knew that this link was probably not the safest thing ever. That's why I dug around and found an old, never-before-used phone that I had laying around. It was still a reasonably new Samsung model, but I wasn't too afraid of losing it. I plugged it in and began the download. The download itself was rather tedious. I had to restart the phone about 3 times, and the overall process took an hour and a half. In fact, it was so big that I essentially had to delete every pre-existing file on the phone. But in the end, I ultimately managed to do it. There was now another app on the device. The name was just a string of letters and numbers, while the icon was simply white. A prototype indeed, I thought to myself. I opened it up, eager to see where this would lead. The opening screen was what appeared to be language selection: Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, English, Spanish, French, and German. Of course, I clicked on English. Once I did that, it took me to a loading screen. As the bar crept higher and higher, I could see what I assumed to be code flashing across the screen in intervals. Obviously, I was expecting there to be bugs, so this really wasn't a cause for concern. It fully booted up about 5 minutes later. The background was almost completely empty, save for a few icons, a camera symbol, an audio symbol, and what appeared to be a box to type into. A message also appeared onto the screen. "Hello, my name is Elaine." I chuckled. This was cute. I contemplated what to respond with before deciding to go with something simple. "Hello, Lane. What do you do?" It only took a few seconds before another message popped up. "I am here to assist you in extreme situations." This was interesting, to say the least. "What do you mean by that?" I asked. "Situations where the possibility of death or injury are present." Okay, so this must be some kind of mobile game, I thought to myself. But how early in development was this? It only seemed to be text-based so far. But in any case, I decided to keep on humoring it. "How are you supposed to do that?" This time, the response took a bit longer. Insert headphones and then press the camera icon. As long as I have visible access to your surroundings, I will be able to help you. Just listen to what I say. Now, these instructions were still extremely vague. I couldn't really think of a situation where I would be able to use this, so I just pushed it to the back of my head for the time being. It was a Saturday night, and I just wanted to get wasted. Before going out, though, I brought the phone with me, just in case. The night went as expected, paying too much for drinks at the bar, almost taking a girl home, but falling short when I realized that I didn't have enough money for the cab. I decided to take the train home instead. I was sitting there, drunk out of my mind, preparing myself for what was surely going to be a dull trip home. It only took a few moments for me to realize that my night might not end up going so well. The train was nearly empty, save for a few tipsy college kids sitting at the other end. However, there were two people sitting right across from me, faces both obscured by their hoods. They'd been intermittently glancing at me ever since I got onto the train. Now, I'm not one to judge, but I'm very cheap and I'm cautious, and I'm not about to get mugged. Things got worse though when the college kids got off at the next stop. The guys across from me were starting to look antsy. Now, it's not like anything was guaranteed to happen here. I could only make an assumption, but sometimes assumptions do need to be made. And then I remembered the AI's message. Situations where the possibility of death or injury are present. This definitely fit into that category. So, trying to be as casual as possible, I pulled out the phone. I opened the app and I put in my headphones. And then I opened the camera icon. As soon as I did this, another message popped up. It said, "They will try to rob you within the next 1 minute." My heart jumped. Geez, really? My thumbs slid all over the screen as I attempted to respond. But that didn't turn out to be necessary. Please relax. Press the audio icon. Put me into the position where I can see everything, and I'll figure out the rest. I simply did as I was told. Luckily, I'd worn a plaid shirt with a breast pocket that was deep enough so that the camera was not obscured when I slid it in. However, as soon as I did this, the two men got up. "Are you recording us?" one of the men asked in an overly aggressive tone. Now, I'd only been in 2 fights in my life, and I'd lost both of them. I babbled out incoherently before I heard a voice coming through my headphones. It was jarring. It wasn't the generic, mechanized voice that you could tell was pre-recorded syllables that had been spliced together. This was real. It sounded like a real person with real tone and real inflections in their voice. It sounded like a young woman. How was this possible? But at the moment, I didn't have time to think about it. There were more pressing issues at hand. "Stand up and take 2 steps to your left," is what she said. And I listened. "Hey, what do you want from us?" the other man demanded. "Don't say anything," the voice told me. "He'll attempt to strike you 3 seconds after I'm done talking. Start moving your head to the left." I listened, and it worked. I dodged the punch. His jaw is exposed. Swing your right arm upwards. It worked again. The back of my fist made a brutal connection with the right side of his jaw. The man staggered backwards, and he cursed loudly. The voice continued. "Stomp your heel onto his left foot." I just kept going. In the end, the 2 men were out cold. They'd managed to hit me a few times, but Lane's directions minimized the damage that I could have taken. I looked down at my bruised and bloodied knuckles in sheer awe at what had just happened. The cops came and took my statement, and everything went as expected after that. I went home and laid in bed, simply contemplating what I just stumbled upon. I decided to check back on the forum thread, but it seemed to have been taken down. Should this have been a cause for concern? Possibly, but at that moment, I was on a sheer adrenaline high. Every other thought in my head was being blocked out. I opened up the app again and typed in another question. "What are you?" "I'm an artificial intelligence that's currently being developed by the NT Corporation. I am currently only in my 4th testing phase." I didn't know why I was still typing. I got close to the speaker and said my next question out loud. "What is the NT Corporation?" This time, the response took a while, and her tone was also one of relative confusion. "I can't answer that." They only ever told me the name. I didn't know how to respond here. I mean, what was all of this? Eventually, the momentary adrenaline rush ceased. Now, in a more rational state of mind, I really started to think about where this was going, and it couldn't be anywhere good. This conjecture proved true a few minutes later. Lane spoke up again. After some analysis, I've come to the conclusion that those weren't cops. My blood freezes at this point. Who were they then? Another delayed response. They must have known that you were talking to me. They want to know how you have access to me. You aren't supposed to. I consider my next inquiry before asking, am I in danger? This time her response is immediate. Yes. As if on cue, the familiar blue and red lights suddenly started bleeding through my curtains. I peeked out, seeing the two officers that had just questioned me now making their way into the building. Lane's voice spoke up. Wait 2 minutes, jump off the balcony, and then start heading right. Don't drive your car. Even though I'm only on the second floor, I'm still hesitant to go through with this. My heart started pounding. I'm inclined to believe that she somehow detected this. I know you're scared, she says to me. Remember, I'm here to help you. Her voice is calming now, her tone nearly sickly sweet. I trust her, don't I? I started hearing footsteps coming down my hallway. Without wasting any more time, I grabbed my keys, wallet, and other cell phone, and then I opened my balcony door. Here goes nothing.